A woman named Sara, standing alone on the creaky old porch of her tiny wooden cabin, tucked right at the base of some jagged, snow-capped mountains. She'd spent years, decades, if we're being real, stuck in the grind of the big city. You've been there, right? The honking cars that never shut up, the deadlines that pile up like bricks on your chest, the fake smiles you have to plaster on just to get through the day. It wore her down till she was a ghost of herself, barely hanging on. All she ever wanted was an escape, a place where she could breathe deep, where the air smelled like pine and freedom instead of exhaust and regret. So after all those gray, miserable years, she finally said, "Enough." Packed up her life, every last scrap of it, ditched the concrete jungle, and moved to that little cabin. Fresh start. Quiet hideaway. That's what she thought she'd get. Those first few weeks? Man, they were everything she'd dreamed of. She'd wake up to birds chirping, no alarms jarring her out of sleep. Step outside with her coffee, steam curling up in the cold morning air, and just take it all in. Wind whispering through the trees, a creek humming soft in the distance. It was peace, pure and simple. She'd sit there on that porch, wrapped in a worn blanket, watching the sun peek over the ridge, painting the world gold. It felt like she'd finally found her spot, you know? Like the universe was giving her a break. But listen up, folks. Life's got this sneaky way of tossing you a curveball when you're just starting to relax. Third weekend, something happened that flipped Sara's quiet little world upside down and cracked her heart wide open in ways she never saw coming. One morning, she's out there on the porch, cradling her mug, the warmth seeping into her hands. She's breathing in that crisp pine scent when she catches something, movement, right at the edge of the forest. A little flicker in the shadows. She squints, leans forward, and there it is, a deer. But hold up, this isn't some postcard perfect deer. This one's got a thick, ugly rope knotted tight around its neck, digging deep into its soft brown fur. Its head's drooping low, and every step it takes looks like pure misery, like it's battling for every single breath. Sara's stomach twists hard. She can see the panic in its shaky legs, hear those raspy, desperate gasps cutting through the stillness. Maybe a hunter's trap snagged it, or some rusted old fence wire got tangled up. Who knows? Doesn't matter. What matters is it's dying out there, slow and painful. And right then, this ache hits her, sharp and deep, like a knife in her chest. No way she's just gonna stand there and watch it fade. She decides, right there on that porch, "I'm saving that deer." But here's the deal. Deer aren't like your dog or your cat. They don't trust people. Why would they? We're the ones who chase them, trap them, take their homes. Sara knows this, but she's stubborn as a mule. So she starts slow, real slow. Every morning, she's out there, waiting. Holds out an apple or a carrot, hands trembling a bit, and just sits. Quiet as a mouse. Patient. Days crawl by, and that deer? It shows up, same time every day, like it's punched in on a clock. Stares at her from way off, those big, dark eyes full of doubt and fear. Hey, listeners, what about you? Could you sit there, day after day, hoping a wild animal gives you a shot? Could you take that kind of no over and over and not give up? A whole week drags on. 7 long, cold mornings, and Sara's starting to think, am I nuts? What am I even doing? She's tired, her hopes fraying, but she's not ready to quit. So she switches it up, drops an apple on the ground, steps back inside, and watches through the window, holding her breath. The deer creeps closer, slow, sniffing the air, every muscle tense. It's starving, ribs poking out like a skeleton under that patchy fur. Finally, it darts in, snatches the apple, and bolts back into the trees. Sara's heart leaps. She's crying a little, laughing a little, hands pressed against the glass. Okay, she thinks, we're getting somewhere. Hang in there, buddy. Days turn into weeks, and here's where it gets good, really good. That deer? It starts trusting her. Creeps closer to the porch, one cautious step at a time. First it's 10 feet away, then 5, then one day, it's right there, just a few feet from her boots. Sara's barely breathing, terrified she'll spook it. Up close, She sees that rope clear as day, how it's scraped the fur raw, how it's biting into the deer's neck like a cruel, twisted collar. Her throat tightens. She can't stand it. She knows it's now or never. Grabs her little pocket knife, sits down on those cold, splintery boards, and sticks out her hand. "Come on, buddy," she whispers, voice all shaky and raw. "Let me help you. Please." The deer freezes, staring at her. For a second, she's dead sure it's gonna run, her heart sinking fast. But then, oh man, then, it steps forward. 1 step. 2. Lowers its head, so close she feels its shaky breath on her skin, warm and uneven. Her hands are sweaty, heart's hammering like a drum in her chest. She's scared it'll hear it and bolts. She slides the knife under that rope, real slow, sawing at it, her fingers trembling so bad she almost drops the blade. The deer flinches, jerks back, and Sara's stomach lurches. "Please," she breathes, tears stinging her eyes. "Just trust me. I got you." And somehow, by some miracle, it does. Stands there, trembling like a leaf, while she cuts through the last bit. The rope falls, thuds soft on the porch, and it's done. That deer sucks in this deep, jagged breath, like it's finally free after God knows how long locked in that chokehold. Lifts its head high, shakes it a little, like it's waking up from a nightmare. And then it looks at her. Really looks. Those eyes? They're not just eyes now. They're alive with something. Gratitude, relief, maybe even love. It slams into Sara like a freight train barreling through her soul. She's bawling, tears streaming down her face, hands shaking as she wipes them away. Before she can say a word, the deer spins and bolts into the woods, gone in a flash. She's sobbing hard, chest heaving, thinking that's the end, that she'll never see it again. She sits there for hours, staring at where it disappeared, feeling empty and full all at once. Oh, how wrong she was. Next morning, there's a noise outside, soft, like a rustle. Sara stumbles out, half asleep, rubbing her eyes, and stops dead in her tracks. The deer's back. And it's not alone. 2 more deer, smaller, younger, probably its kids, are standing with it, like a little family showing up for breakfast. Sara's legs wobble. She's gotta grab the railing to stay up. She laughs through her tears, this shaky, messy sound, and runs inside, grabs an apple, some carrots, a handful of greens, anything she can find, and tosses them out. They come closer this time, no fear, and eat while she watches, her heart so full it's bursting at the seams. Hey you guys, what would you do? If a wild animal you saved brought its family to say thanks, could you even deal with that? Tell me. From then on, it's like clockwork. Every morning, they show up, her deer and its little crew. Not just for food either. They hang out. Stand there on the porch, heads tilted, watching her like she's one of them now. She starts leaving the door open sometimes, just to feel them closer, their soft snorts mixing with the crackle of her fireplace. Winter hits hard, snow piling up, wind screaming through the mountains. But they're still there, breath puffing in the freezing air, their hoofprints dotting her yard like little love notes. Sara's calling them family now, not out loud, just in her head, where it's real and raw. She's not alone anymore. Never thought she'd say that, not after all those lonely city nights. One snowy morning, she's out there, coffee in hand, wrapped in a blanket that's seen better days. The world's quiet, blanketed in white, and she looks up. The deer's right there, closer than ever, its nose practically brushing her knee. Their eyes lock. It's not just a look, it's everything. A thank you. A promise. A whole story in one long, silent stare. Sara's crying again, but it's not sad tears this time. It's bigger, deeper. She gets it then. We think we're the ones watching nature, fixing it, saving it. But what if nature's watching us? Waiting to see if we're worth a damn. She sits there, snowflakes catching in her hair, letting that sink in. That deer didn't just change how Sara saw the wild. It changed her whole damn life. She'd moved there to hide, to patch up the wounds from a world that had crushed her spirit. She'd been broken, lost, just going through the motions. But now? Now she's alive again, all because of a creature that should have run but stayed. Tell me, listeners, what's the wildest friendship you've ever had? Someone, or something, that crashed into your life and flipped it upside down. Hit the comments, I want to hear it, 'cause this story? It's proof love doesn't need words. Just a chance. Sara is still in that cabin years later, and those deer still come by. Every morning, they bring back the cold, desperate days she chose to care. The days she sat on that porch, knife in hand, and bet on hope. And every morning, she's grateful, because sometimes, the ones we save end up saving us. One day, under a sky heavy with snow, the deer stood there, its breath rising like little ghosts in the frost, swirling up to join the clouds. It looked at Sara, eyes glinting like stars caught in the dawn, and she knew. Some thank yous don't need a sound. They roar louder than a storm in the silence. They're woven into the wind, etched into the pulse of the wild, a bond as unshakable as the mountains towering above her little home.